All right, congratulations and thank you. You've made it to near the end of the course, but stay tuned because this video is very important. We're going to summarize what we've learned and kind of piece it all together real quick. And then in the second half of this video, I'm going to tell you what we're going to be doing when we apply all this to a vocal training program and the vocal training community that I'm creating. And as I discuss the training part, I'll be tying it back to everything we learned in this course. And it's really been a pleasure to create this course. I really wish I could add even more free information, but I'm sometimes worried about the attention span of people, and I respect that you're busy. And if you still need more information to get to know me as a coach, remember there's a YouTube channel for Vocal Nebula, and I have a list of over 100 videos that I'm going to create that'll be tips, some more theory, philosophy behind how I teach and what I see in the community of vocal training. And as well as I'll be putting up demonstrations of my own voice, either scales and keyboard work, as well as cover songs and then later original songs. So you have all that information for yourself to either just take with you and do whatever you want to do, or use it to evaluate if you want to pay to enter into the vocal training program. Okay, so let's recap real quick what we learned. And all I want to do is cover the really big takeaways here. What I want you to take away from this course that's so important is let's talk about the instrument as a whole. We've already talked about that. There's 3 parts. The voice is not like an instrument. It is an instrument. It is a musical instrument. And we want to play it well. If we want to develop mastery, we need to train it and we want to play it well. Okay, so big takeaway number 1 is we need to activate the instrument. So we've talked about activating the resonator or the head. We've talked about activating the diamond and some of the muscles here. We've talked about different smaller parts that need to be active. But ultimately, when we're getting ready to speak or sing, we want to activate all those as if they were one thing. Right? We want to put it all together. So what is that? Well, we talked about when we activate the head, we certainly want the muscles of the face and neck and head to be up, in some cases kind of up and back, some cases up and a little forward, but always in this upward direction and always very active. That also includes the jaw being up and ready to open forward, as well as the soft palate up nice and firm, and the tongue at least in a neutral position. Okay, so that's all active. Now remember that the top part of the instrument is connected to the bottom part from behind, going down the muscles of the neck and the spinal column and the big muscles of the back until we're now down here into the diamond and the muscles of the pelvic floor. So we want the diamond and the muscles of the pelvic floor active and moving down, right? Moving always in a downward direction. And then these 2 parts of the instrument are connected from behind with the back muscles active and the posture really good. So you can see this is all one big giant. To me, it reminds me a little bit of a microscope where you have the part you look through and then the part in the bottom and then the support that connects the two. That's a lot like this outer container of the instrument. And what's this all doing? Okay, well, it's taking the pressure off of the muscles and cartilage and the moving parts here that are much more delicate and need to be loose and free to work properly. Okay, so takeaway number 1 is even if you're doing this, even if you're doing just lip trills or humming or these, and we're going to talk about this in the second half of this video, to be able to activate the instrument and get these things in the right place and keep them active when you think you're doing some kind of simple warm-up is going to have a very powerful effect on your training. Okay, so the instrument is active and all that entails. The second big takeaway are these false vocal folds. Because once this is active, this is all loose, with generally one exception, is those false vocal folds. For almost everybody, I think everybody has this problem. It's just a matter of degree. Some people have it very bad. I had it very bad. Is that these false vocal folds want to slam shut, usually as you climb in pitch. So as you develop the awareness to even notice that they're slamming shut. So first you have to know that they exist. Then you have to develop an awareness of when they begin to constrict and how that feels. You have to develop the ability through the examples we gave, like smiling in the throat, flaring the nostrils, the onset of a yawn, these different things that help pull them back open. Because if these are open and the instrument is active, when you're training, you're already ahead of 99% of all vocal students out there. So these things can take some time, because these, not only do you need to develop the new habits, but you need to develop the muscle strength. So you need the muscle strength to keep all this stuff active and strong to a point where it becomes habit and second nature. And you need to keep these false folds open, and then later develop the mastery over, if you want to close them halfway or whatever, for stylistic effects, great. But you just don't want to be the victim of their or your own inability to control them, if that's a better way of putting it. So those are the two big takeaways, as well as please, if I come up with any other videos, even the ones at YouTube that I think are very important for you to study, look below this video. I'm going to put links down there to anything else that I kind of want to add to this course, but it may not be worthy of punching in a new lesson and putting a whole new lesson in. So you've got the YouTube channel, you've got this course, as well as the forum for the level 1 course. And then from that point, you're going to have to decide if you want to move into the vocal training program. And what I really want in there are people who love to sing, love to act, love to use their voice, and understand that, like any athletic endeavor, using your voices and training your voice to use it properly is very athletic. And so like any athletic endeavor, you know that you have to train, you know, so the training, we'll talk about that in the next section of the video. So let's wrap up and let's wrap this part up and we'll talk about the training program, which is very exciting. Okay, so let's talk about level 2 training. What I'm creating here, and I'm going to begin creating the courses now, is you're going to have another course just like this one with probably, right now it looks like about a dozen lessons, maybe 5 to 10 hours of video content, all original, all created for this course. In addition to that, there'll be a member-only forum area where the students can get to know each other, interact with each other, and I'll be in there as well, both as a student as well as the coach, and I'll be answering questions. If questions come up frequently, I'll be creating videos and demonstrations to solve them. If we feel like we want to get on a webinar or a conference call for free, just to answer more questions or to talk about certain topics, those will be created as well. In addition to the course area, there'll probably be a lot of videos that don't really fit right into a lesson. So I'm going to create a separate section of videos, like a knowledge base, where you can search and you can search for false vocal folds, for example, and it'll bring up solutions to commonly asked problems and questions that we encounter. Okay, so that's kind of the different parts. Let's talk about what we're going to cover in the course. Okay, so the course begins with getting to know your voice. It's called Know Your Voice, where we'll begin with a keyboard. So imagine a keyboard here. And what we want to do is know our voice as it is today. So what we first learn is what is the entire range we can make any kind of sound, the lowest bass, fry sound, all without hurting ourselves, all the way up to the highest little squeak we can make in our head. This is our sound making range. Then we learn a smaller subsection of that section is the range that we can sing in, or even if we don't sing well, but it just feels like singing, even if it's there's some pressure buildup, or the strength isn't in the right place, or the pitch is off a little bit, we still know that we can kind of sing in that range. Inside of that range, we're going to have the range that probably like an octave to an octave and a half, which is kind of our strongest zone. In Italian, they call this tessitura. It's your main kind of octave and a half. It could be 2 octaves, but really like 1 to 1.5 octaves. And then within there, you're going to kind of know the center of your voice, which might even be a single note or about a half octave. And all of these things change as your voice grows and develops. So what we want to do is take a snapshot of where we're at. Oh, and in addition, most importantly of all this, is we'll identify these areas called passages, in Italian passaggio. Some people use speed bumps. Some people talk about gear changes. So these would be the locations where you make gear changes. These are areas where there's a lot of pressure buildup, and we have to change our coordination of the different moving parts of the instrument to relieve that pressure, shed some of that muscle strength so that we can move up higher in pitch or lower in pitch. We just want it all to be smooth and connected, and we want to identify where it's not so we know how to apply ourselves in our training to solve those problems. Okay, so once we know our voice, we'll then begin with a template for the core workout. So it'll be somewhere between 50 and 60 minutes of MP3 files. I'm going to create the MP3 files for 6 voice types, and you can start with the voice type that applies for where you're at your level today, but you're more than welcome to download any other voice type. So if you want to work the lower end or move up into some higher ranges, you begin to swap out the files you were using and replace them with different files. So the idea here at Vocal Nebula and what I do in my personal training is very much a type of plug and play approach. So not only do I plug and play the different scales to cover the different ranges of my voice, but I plug and play the different types of exercises I do. And so let's talk about those exercises, because these correspond to the different lessons that will be offered in the learning management system like the one you just finished. So we start with, of course, lip trills. Most everybody is familiar with the. But again, we're going to talk about doing them not just unconsciously to get them over with as a warm-up, but why we do them, how we do them properly, and how we do it with the instrument engaged and what we're paying attention to while we do it. Then we move into a group called nasals, which are very similar to humming. You could say humming is one type of nasal, okay? We work with nasals. We learn how to, these are brilliant. They're so underrated in terms of how, when used properly and applied to what we learn in the first course, because it's essentially full singing with your mouth closed, but everything else is full on singing. So what it does is by closing your mouth, it takes a lot of the inhibitory behavior doesn't kick in, because most of that's related to things you're doing in the mouth. So we cover nasals, then we move on to something called fricatives, okay? Fricatives is where a little bit of sound is coming out your mouth, but it's a category of exercises where I usually have probably 5 to 10 minutes of my daily workout is spent on fricatives. But again, these are low volume exercises, just like nasals, low volume. So they make for great things that you can do for a half hour, an hour. You can do in your car. You can do in your room if you have situations where you can't make a lot of noise. And these accelerate your growth very, very well when you do them properly. Okay. Then we move into a category of exercises that I call resonators. And these are based on, it's also based on something called, I think it's called vocal resonant training, resonant vocal training, that might be it, which comes out of speech therapy. In this section, we learn how to find kind of the sweet spot in all these different moving parts. There's kind of a groove or a sweet spot that you can put them in that creates the highest amount of resonation, including different types of resonation. This is also harmonics. We're adding harmonic content. This is the good stuff, okay? The timbre of the sound, the tone of the sound, the richness of the sound, the brightness of the sound. All of this is resonation. Well, there's exercises you can do to develop this resonation in a way that you can maximize the amount of high quality resonation you produce with the least amount of effort. It feels completely effortless. When the better you get with your technique, the less effort you'll feel. You'll feel almost nothing here except kind of a buzz, a really nice, gentle buzz feel, and no buildup of pressure. Okay? Once we learn about the resonators and the exercises to practice them, we move also into what are called open mouth vowels, OMVs. It's basically working on vowels and over scales. And this is designed to train the true vocal folds and strengthen them. With these, you have to start on this right away and get them as strong as possible. Okay? And then there'll be kind of a lesson to follow where we're going to talk a lot about in this course vowel modifications and consonant modifications. Vowels and consonants used in singing or in acting when you're in the higher range of your voice are not the same as we would use normally when we're speaking down like I'm doing now. We get challenged in higher ranges using whatever vowel form we feel we use when we speak. What we actually want to do is be very, very careful about how we form our vowels. And sometimes we may have to substitute the vowel where the ah becomes a little more like an O. And we cover all of that in the next course. Okay, consonants as well. Sometimes when you're very high in your range, you might have to substitute consonants, but generally with consonants, you want to soften them. If you use your consonants too hard, they feed back into the true folds and can cause a lot of problems. So we have a whole section on that. Then we have exercises that I call over-articulation exercises. These will be exercises where we start to bring consonants in, and we intentionally hit them a little hard because it's a technique used especially in voice acting, but it strengthens these folds and gets you down into that thicker, heavier connection of the fold when you want to make a bigger sound, okay? And in addition to that, I do a lot of improvisation. After I do my workout, which is about 45 or 50 minutes, I take a little break, I move to my keyboard, and I just kind of get to know my voice a little better and see where I'm having problems. I go up and down the keyboard, and then I begin song work. And when I'm working on songs, if I'm working on my technique, then there's certain things I'm thinking about and noticing when I'm doing songs, and I'll experiment. I might sing the first verse with a low larynx and the next verse with a high larynx, or the first chorus with a big open sound that's not so resonant, and then the second chorus trying to maximize the resonation. So I'm constantly experimenting while I'm singing songs as well. As separate from the times when I'm actually trying to perform the song, when I have to clear my mind of all the technique, all the thoughts and obsession about the technique, and drop into the character and then try to express the song as an artist as opposed to someone working on their technique. But I'm going to be creating a lot of little demonstration videos on these things that you can do while you're doing your song work, or things you can just improvise at the keyboard that are also very valuable in accelerating your growth and training. Okay, so God, I think that covers everything, and I appreciate very much that you took the time to stop by here. If you feel like you're ready to start training hard and be in a community of people who are training their voices and who work very hard, please come on in. It's the price of probably 2 or 3 private lessons. You're going to get hours upon hours of content, a nice community to be a member of. And I'm moving in the direction of also offering courses on really the digital voice artist with a home studio. So we're going to be talking about equipment such as microphones, compressors, preamps, recording software, the plugins for the software, and how to record your voice at whatever budget you have at the highest quality possible, because it's a great deal of fun, even if you're just doing it for yourself or your friends. But if you want to take it to the next level and start publishing online the things you're doing, then it gets even more interesting. Okay, so you're very welcome to enter the course. There should be below you also something you can, a button or something that you can click to go sign up for the course. You probably get something by email as well. And whatever you do, good luck with all your training and good luck with all your singing, acting, speaking. I wish you well, and thank you again for stopping by Vocal Nebula.